Assalamu alaikum. I'm Luqman Al-Kasabany and this is 𝐂𝐩𝐲 Academy. In today's episode, inshallah, we will discuss the letter T. Okay? Stay tuned.
𝐂𝐲𝐲 Academy.
So this is just to remind you that we are explaining from Al-Minhaj book, the 𝐂𝐲𝐲 Academy book. Okay? So in the last episodes, we discussed the first letter, the first Arabic letter, which is letter Alif, and also we discussed the second letter, which is the letter B. So today we'll discuss, inshallah, the third letter, which is letter Dal. Okay? So as we know, we are discussing the Arabic alphabet letters through these questions. What is the point of articulation and how to pronounce? And this letter, whether it's heavy or light, okay, and why? And the third question is, what is its counterpart in English, the letter counterpart in English? And the fourth question is, what are the common mistakes when pronounce this letter? Okay, so let's start. So now we will start by the first question. What is the point of articulation and how to pronounce it? And again, we understand that these are two different points: the point of articulation and how to pronounce it. Different points of articulation, different 2 points. The point of articulation is the organ that are used to pronounce that letter, but how to pronounce it, how to use that organ to pronounce this letter. So I will say now this letter, and you rule, my dear students, to discover how to pronounce the point of articulation of this letter. T, 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 tu, T, T. What is the point of articulation of this letter? Actually, the points of articulation of this letter is the tongue. We are using our tongue to pronounce this letter. Unlike, for example, letter B and letter Mim and letter W, we're using our lips, like B, Me, We. We are using our lips. But this letter depends on the tongue when pronouncing it. Okay, how we pronounce this letter? This is the second question to discuss in detail. In which part of the tongue and how the tongue will touch what to pronounce this letter. This is what we discuss now. But you have to know, first of all, that the tongue, imagine that this is a tongue, okay? Sorry. Okay, we will imagine now that we have here, this is the head, okay? And we have here the tongue. Okay, this tongue, we have to divide it into 3 parts. Okay, we will divide the tongue into 3 parts. Okay, this is the mouth is here. Okay, so this parts and the mouth is here. So the first part we will call the top of the tongue. Okay. So the top part is nearest to what? To the mouth. And here the middle part of the tongue, and here the back part of the tongue. So we have top, middle, and back. Okay, the top part, the first part, let's use another color. The first part of the top part of the tongue is called tip of the tongue, which is this part. This part is called the tip of the tongue. Okay, so what happens when we pronounce letter T? The top bar of the tip of the tongue, the top bar, so that we have the tip of the tongue, which is the first point in the top of the tongue, the top part of it. The top part of it touches what? The top touches the gums of the front upper incisors, front to upper incisors. So the top part of the tip of the tongue touches the gums of the upper 2 front incisors. T. So again, the top part of the tip of the tongue, okay, touches the gums of the upper 2 front incisors. T. ت. Okay, and this is how to pronounce this letter. So we said the point of articulation is the tongue, okay, and how to pronounce it by making the top part of the top side of the tip of the tongue touches the gums of the upper two front incisors. T. Okay, so let's now move to the next question. The next question is, this letter is heavy letter or light one? Again, we said when we say this letter is heavy or light, we are speaking about the back part of the tongue. The back part of the tongue will be raised or not. So if it will be raised, this letter will be a heavy letter, but if not, this letter will be light. So the translation of this question, the back of the tongue will be raised or not. This is what does this letter is heavy or light, and this letter is light. T, which means the back of the tongue will not raise. T. Okay, so let's move to the next question. What is the counterpart of letter T? The counterpart, it's so easy and it's so clear that the counterpart of this letter, which is letter T, is letter T in English, is letter T. This is the counterpart of letter T in English. As for example, the word 10, this color, for those who know it, T. 10. So this letter T looks like this T, as this is the counterpart of letter T in English. Okay, so let's now move to the next question, which is, what are the common mistakes when pronounce letter T? And this is a very, very important point. Okay, actually, one of the common mistakes when pronouncing letter T is the excessive air, as we said in the letter B. For those who remember that, if you don't see this episode, go and move and say first the episode of letter T. So this is also one of the common mistakes of letter T, which is making an excessive air, the exaggeration when pronounce letter T by excessive air. So for example, the word تتوفاهم. Okay, this is تتوفاهم. This is the correct pronunciation. تتوفاهم الذين تتوفاهم الملائكة. تتوفاهم. But some people say تتوفاهم. تتوفاهم, and making this excessive air, and this is one of the common mistakes, and you should avoid that and saying without an excessive air and saying like this. تتوفاهم. This letter has an air, but without exaggeration, without saying تتوفاهم. No, this is wrong. Let's take an example from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, الذين تتوفاهم الملائكة طيبين يقولون سلام عليكم ادخلوا الجنة بما كنتم تعملون. So تتوفاهم تعملون without excessive air. Okay. The second, however, common mistake is making letter T heavy. We said now that we will choose that for letter T. So letter T is a light letter. One of the common mistakes is making letter T a heavy letter. Let's take an example. So we will write down this word as an example. تطمئن. And this is normally happens when the letter after T is a heavy letter. So we have here T, okay, and we have after this T we have letter T. So some people say letter T heavy because the letter after it is a heavy letter, and this is one of the common mistakes. So making a light letter heavy when the next letter or the letter after it is heavy, and making the heavy letter light when the letter comes after it is light. And this is now we have here the first case. Okay, so this letter should be light because it's letter ta, but some people make it heavy because the next one is heavy, and saying تطمئن قلوبهم. تطمئن, no, it's not تطمئن, it's tato. This moving from light to heavy should not make the light letter a heavy one. تطمئن. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. So تطمئن without pausing. I just make this pause to clarify this point, but you have to say without pausing. So تطمئن. Okay, so this letter is light, so take care to make it heavy because the next one is a heavy one, and this is, by the way, needs a lot of practicing to pronounce it correctly. Also, one of the common mistakes is not making an air, especially when it comes in the state of a sukun. Okay, we said that letter ta has an air, but we said in the first point, or the first common mistake, we shouldn't make an excessive air. Here, some people doesn't make an air at all, especially when it comes in the state of a sukun. An example, tatra. Okay, we have to, we mean here the second ta. Some people say tatra without making an air, but the correct pronunciation is making an air but without exaggeration, like saying tatra without exaggeration. Okay, but so we can conclude this by saying we can make two wrong pronunciations here. The first one is making an excessive air, tetra, and not making an air at all, tatra. These two pronunciations are wrong, but the correct one is tatra, making an air and without exaggeration. So this is the end of our discussion of this letter, the letter ta, the third letter of the Arabic alphabet letters. So I hope now you can pronounce letter ta, and inshallah in the next episode we will discuss the fourth letter in the fourth part, which is letter ta. So stay tuned. Now we came to the end of this episode. So if you want to follow up the next episodes, consider subscribing. Also, if you want a qualified Quran tutor, whether for yourself or your kids, we are providing online Quran classes. Don't forget to check out our app. See you inshallah in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum.
Shaykhi Academy. Learn and enjoy.